Are you a fan of the MPK Mini Mark III? If so, there is a new keyboard controller and it is 37 keys and you just might want to upgrade to it. So let's talk about the Akai MPK Mini Plus. I have the privilege of being able to review it and talk about it and basically drop a video as it comes out. So thank you very much, Akai, for that. Quick note, there was no money that exchanged hands, so I get to say whatever I want about this keyboard, the pros and the cons, and I will be brutally honest for you guys. So let's get right into it. Got the MPK Mini Mark III right here, and then I've got the Mini Play right here, which has the speaker. Same keyboard, and they do feel good. Like I do like the way these keys feel. If you're familiar with the MPK Mini Mark III features, the majority of these features are basically in the MPK Mini Plus, if not all the features actually. Along with a sequencer, some additional control features. You know, you got transport features. You also have pitch bend and mod wheel in addition to the joystick, which I think is really cool. The Mini Play obviously has a speaker, and that is not on the Mini Plus. So if you are looking for something that has sounds and a speaker, the Mini Play really is the only option. The Mini and the Mini Plus both have really good feeling pads. So yeah, as you can see, they're basically adding an additional octave plus a few additional items in the MPK Mini Plus. To note also, on the back of the Mini Mark III, you only have USB and sustain. So that is one defining feature that sets the MPK Mini Plus completely apart, because you have obviously USB and sustain ports right there, but then you also have CV gate out. So you have modulation, gate, pitch. You have clock in and out for your modular gear. And then you have 5-pin MIDI DIN in and out on here as well. So these are probably landmark big considerations when you're thinking about a MIDI keyboard. And if you're looking at the MPK Mini Mark III before, and then you found out that it didn't have these, that was kind of a deal breaker for certain setups. Akai has fixed that problem with the Mini Plus in a bigger format, albeit not that much bigger, but it is technically a bigger format. And I think the 37 keys really is a welcome addition. Like I said, I think the keyboard itself feels nice. I'm a fan of mini keys, and I think the Keybed feels good. Let's plug this in. So in order to power the MPK Mini Plus, it can only be powered via USB. So keep that in mind. If you do want to use this for a quote-unquote DAW-less setup, you are gonna need to power it with a USB battery bank of some sort. Right now, it's plugged into my PC, which is connected to MPC software. So as I previously stated, if you are familiar with the MPK Mini Mark III, then majority of this stuff transfers over. You know, if you want to change, say, the type of program that's on here, you hold the program button, and then you choose your program, Logic Pro, FL Studio, GarageBand, or the first one, which is the MPC setup. What's really nice about the MPK Mini Plus is that you do have the ability to edit certain settings directly on this box. There is a editor that you can you know, download and save programs and all that and edit directly on the computer, which is really nice, obviously. But if you're in a pinch and you need to change, say, a CC parameter on one of these knobs, you can actually do that directly on here by going Shift Edit, and then it says move the control to edit something. So let's edit K5. So it says right there, CC number 75. You know, I can click on that and then change the CC number accordingly. And I can change the high value, the high limit, and the low limit. I can change it from absolute to relative modes, which is nice. One major feature that's missing on these knobs, which I'm actually pretty surprised about, is the ability to set a MIDI channel. As it is right now, it defaults to whatever MIDI channel your keyboard is set to. So if you plug this into a DAW-less setup, and let's say you have like a Dreadbox Nymphs right here, and then you have like, say, a Digitact off to the side. Let's say you wanted to play the Dreadbox Nymphs with the keys, but you wanted to control some of the filters of the channels on the Digitact with the knobs. As it is right now, you cannot do that, which is really unfortunate, because I could totally see that being a kind of a hub of being able to do some DAW-less jams with this keyboard. I have spoke directly to Akai, so they have taken notes on that, and that could be something that gets changed in the future, which fingers crossed it does. So yeah, if you want to change anything CC value-wise, you can easily do it on this panel. Again, Shift, Edit, the program select, and then, like, say, the joystick. The joystick's great because you can edit it to be either 1 CC per axis, or you can edit it for a CC for the positive and a CC for the negative on both sides. So you could have technically 4 CC values being controlled by the joystick. So that's really cool. And your pitch bend and modulation wheels are independent on that. Now you cannot edit the CC of the pitch bend and modulation wheel, probably because they think that people would always want to keep this on pitch bend and modulation. Like I said, the pads feel good. And you can see what these pad numbers are right there. So you can directly change the note and the CC value on this box directly. Obviously you have transport controls, backwards, forwards, stop, play, record. Nice to see that. And you also have a sequencer start and stop right there. The arpeggiator is basically the same thing from the Mini Mark III. So if you're familiar with that arpeggiator, you can hold this, you can start changing controls on here. So quarter step, eighth step, 16th, your typical stuff right there. You can change the order, let's say random, you can tell it to latch, you can tell it how many octaves, like first, second, third, or fourth octaves. So let's say 3 octaves on there. You can give it some swing, like so. 50, 55, 57, 59, that type of stuff. If you want to adjust that finite level, you can still use the buttons over here, or the knobs, to be able to control it. So I can adjust the swing down to say 52% if I want to be that specific, So if you have a few options right here. In fact, you can control this stuff. You can press Shift, Config, and then you're in the ARP menu, and you can control all the settings right here. I forgot there's gate as well. Is gate on here? Gate is not on here, so I guess the only way to control gate is either here or on K7 knob when holding ARP. What's really cool is you can actually activate the arpeggiator and control the sequencer at the same time, both the step sequencer and live sequencer. We'll get to those in a second. Before we talk about that though, let's talk about software integration. I think that's part of where this kind of falls a bit flat. So let's talk about it. So being an Akai product, I would expect this to automatically talk and map to things in the Akai software, the MPC software specifically. And it doesn't quite do that, unfortunately. You do get MPC beats with this. So if you are new to music production, you want to learn how to make some beats, MPC beats is great because it gives you 8 MIDI tracks and 1 audio track to work with to be able to make some beats. And you get some sounds with it as well. So you basically are good to go to try stuff out and see if you like making beats. But with that out of the way, what I want to talk about is that these controllers don't automatically talk to the software in a way that you would think. For instance, the MPK Mini Mark III doesn't automatically show up as a controller in the MPC software. So in order to get this to talk to the MPC software correctly, what you have to do is you have to click on this little icon down over here. I mean, actually, first off, sorry. What you have to do first before that, you have to go to Preferences. So you're in Preferences, then you have to go to MIDI Sync, and then in MIDI Sync, you have to tell it, for some reason it's not showing up. I think I'm experiencing a strange Windows bug here. The MPK Mini is just not showing up in the Windows drivers right now. And then I plug the MPK Mini Plus in, it's working. So unfortunately, the Windows drivers are very archaic. So that's besides the point though. So let's get back on track here. If I wanted to link up the MPK Mini Mark III to the software here, I go to Preferences, and then I go into MIDI Sync, and then I find it on here, click on Control. So let's just say Control like that. And then after Control is clicked, I would go over to this MIDI Learn area, and I would say Enable, and I'd say Akai MPK Mini 3, and then it works, essentially. That, in my opinion, is quite a few hoops to jump through for a beginner. I don't know why Akai doesn't just make this stuff happen underneath the hood, because it's an Akai product, so they could have a driver that says, this is the Akai product, let's talk directly to the software and make things copacetic. But it doesn't. You have to, like I said, do these things to enable it, to make it act like an actual MIDI controller. So I don't know why they do that. Maybe it's because they want to give us, the users, as much control as possible. If that's the case, great, but you could definitely just enable that initially, and then if we are a power user that wants more control, we could just disable it and then go into a custom mode to activate whatever power user type of things that we want. Why not just have it directly connect? And you might be thinking, well, maybe they can't. But they can, because when I turn on my MPC-1, which I'll do right now, it shows up in the software. And it is like, hey, I'm an MPC-1 directly controlling your software, and you don't have to do anything else. All the things work with it. I have an MPC-1 connected, and it's currently operating the software with no problem. So if I go Shift, MIDI Control, you look on the screen, it has all of the voodoo magic that happens underneath the hood properly connected with this box. It would be really cool to see the MPK Mini Mark III or the Mini Plus and all that show up right here, and then have the transport controls and everything work with no hiccups whatsoever on plugging in that keyboard. So I think that's a miss. Just want to point that out. So if you do buy one of these controllers and then find out that it doesn't directly connect with the software, it's not your computer, it's the software. All right, enough of that. Let's talk more about this keyboard. Another strange quirk about the way they set up the MPK Mini Plus is that, yes, you do, oops, this is stuck on something. Yes, you do have a MIDI in and out port on the back right here, which is a very, very welcome addition. But when it's connected to the computer, at least a PC for that matter, the PC attaches itself to these ports, and then whatever you play on the actual keyboard itself doesn't get sent out through those ports. So this is one of these things that Akai got back to me on and said that it is by design that way, so you have more control when using your software. But if you are in a situation where you do want to just send MIDI info directly out from these keys, or directly out to the ports from these keys, then you basically have to power this with a battery pack or some USB pure power source and not an actual PC. Because a PC says, oh, it's a USB port, MIDI port, attaches it, and then stops sending info from these keys. So a little strange, personally. I think it would have been better to just set it as it always sends out MIDI data through those ports. And then a setting in here would say, do you want to detach the keyboard from that port to allow the PC to route that info or route that data whenever you prefer? I feel like that would have been better. Guaranteed someone's gonna plug this into a PC, plug in a MIDI cable directly to a piece of device, to like a sound module, play and be like, my port's broken. That literally happened to me. I sent a message and I was like, I think I have a defective unit because the port was working the other day because I had it plugged into a battery pack and now it's not working. But then, like, you know, you jump in Ableton and you route your, in fact, I'll do it right now. The MPK Mini Plus input, that, and then I'm sending it out to the MPK Mini Plus port 2, right there. Now, it will officially do what I think it should do when it's just powered on. Like that. That's how you have to actually send it. And then input monitor, so it will actually do that. So if you do happen to purchase one of these and you plug in your MIDI cable directly into a device and you're not getting any MIDI data as you're playing, it's because you've plugged it into a PC. I don't know if that's the case with a Mac, because Mac's core audio is definitely better when it comes to handling MIDI data and all that. When it comes to PCs, Windows PCs, they have a lock on whatever MIDI device is being used, and therefore you cannot use that MIDI device with another program or device or whatever until it releases it. Real quick, are you enjoying this video? If you are, a like, subscribe, and a comment even goes a long way in supporting the channel. So thank you very much. Moving on, I do want to talk about the transport controls real quick. You need to go into Ableton program, by the way, if you do this. So quick note, pad 1, pad 2. Pad 2 is Ableton when holding the program select. Once you have that, you will be in the Ableton mode. Akai did tell me that they are trying to get a script that added to the distribution of Ableton Live. So hopefully that will get added later on, but I was given a script that I could put into my user preferences. So then automatic mappings would happen with the MPK Mini Plus. So hopefully that does get added in the future. So when you do get it, you just plug it in and Ableton automatically recognizes it. But when the script is active, your transfer controls are good to go. So as you can see, I'm playing, I'm stopping, I'm recording, I'm shuttling back and forth like so. Let's record. I didn't arm the track. You get the idea. Anyways, you know, nice little convenience right there, having the transport controls work directly with Ableton. We should talk about the sequencer. Let me get a module. Okay, so I have the Cobalt 8M hooked up here from Modal Electronics, and I am just going to use Ableton to route the MIDI because, again, I would have to literally send the MIDI through Ableton anyways. We're going to do it this way, okay? So USB MIDI is going to be used, but the USB MIDI is going to control the sequencer and the arpeggio stuff and all that. So I have a patch here that I made a few days ago, just kind of like an ARP patch, an arpeggio pluck type of patch. This is the latest firmware on the Cobalt as well, the firmware 2.0, which is a big upgrade, by the way. So as stated before, the arpeggiator will work with the step sequencer. In fact, it kind of helps to set the tempo, because one thing that is non-existent for the sequencers is a click or a metronome of some sort to be able to play against. So you will need to hear some sort of rhythm if you want to play live on the live sequencer. Because there's two sequencers, by the way, a step sequencer and a live sequencer, and they can be independent of each other while sharing some characteristics. We'll talk about that. So let's go arpeggiator. I'm gonna go down an octave as well. Let's latch. Let's go random latch 16th. 16th might be too much. Let's go 8th. Let's go 3 octaves. Let's go into the step editor. So if we hold shift and press step edit or negative octave, it shows us that we're in the step editor right here. So it can say it's step 1, what type of division, which you can change the division independently from the arpeggiator. So let's actually go to 16ths on here. So 16ths, and length as well. The length can be 64 steps. So you can have basically 4 bars of 16th notes. The length is shared between step and live sequencing. So those are, connected right there, just like the division. But they can have completely different notes in them. And also it is 8-note polyphony. So that 8-note polyphony is shared with the step editor and the live sequencer. But again, they could be separated. So let's do the step sequence here. Step sequence thing here. Let's go up here. Go G. Next one, we'll do G and a B flat. Next step. And then to play it. Now I'm still in the step sequencer mode, which if I want to get out of that, I need to hit home. And now I can change the arpeggiator. Let's stop the sequencer. Let's go back into the step sequencer. Let's change the division to 8ths. Cool, right? Into the live sequencer now. So if we go hold shift, press plus octave, we are officially in the live sequencer. Again, this division is shared. So as you can hear, the division is now going for the step sequencer and the live sequencer onto 16ths. So you do have to keep that in mind. Let's go back to 8ths. Same thing with the length is shared. You can also sequence the pads as well, and you can tell what channel the pads are going to be on, which I think is pretty interesting. This also tells you how many keys are being played in this particular step. Right now it's saying 1 or 2, and that's because that's shared from the step sequencer right there. But let's put it in. Now, because I'm in the live sequencer, it will automatically listen to the keyboard input to put stuff in here. let's go up a couple octaves, do the same thing. I'm gonna press home to get out of that mode. Now I'm going to stop the sequencer. Cool, all right? If I want to clear the step sequencer, I just hold shift and then clear key. And now the arpeggiator is still going, but the sequencer has been cleared. So now I can go shift plus octave to go back into live. And let's actually give it, let's see, let's go 16ths on here, 16ths. Let's go 32 steps, 16th notes on here. And then let's play. Go back home. Let's turn off the arpeggiator. Yeah, I think that's really powerful, honestly. So it doesn't have probability. I mean, that could be added in the future because there's definitely enough room here on the editor to where they could just add a probability setting in the steps, you know, like if you were to go shift, step, edit, like as you can see, you're on step 1 right now. So you can actually change to whatever step you want on here. So I could, you know, go to step 1, and I'm assuming in the future they could add a probability if they wanted, assuming the chip that controls all this can actually handle that. I think it's a really cool sequencer because you have the arpeggiator, which is a good arpeggiator, and then you have step sequencer to do some stuff, and you have live sequencer to additionally add some things and overdub on top of. So I like that quite a bit. What it is missing though is the ability to split step sequence and live sequence away from each other in terms of a MIDI channel. I think that would have been cool if you could say MIDI channel 1 for step sequencer and MIDI channel 2 or 3 or whatever for the live sequencer, and then you'd have even more like robust control happening with the with this like really small setup right here. I think that'd be cool. There's also scales and chords. You know, I think those are pretty self-explanatory. If you're into those type of things, then you're going to be able to set the keyboard to a particular scale and just say like, you know, you only want C minor, so whatever note you play will always be inside the C minor scale. You could do that. You could set up chords, so you could, you know, have like a minor 7th chord always playing on whatever key, you know. So great features right there. Nice to haves, you know, as I would say. We are going to talk about some options in here because there is quite a bit of mini key options out in the wild. You should be aware of them. And I will say that even though the Keybed is good, It is a bit on the short side, and it's also missing aftertouch. All those keys, the play and the MPK Mini Mark III, they don't have aftertouch. Aftertouch is really important to me since I like being able to push into the keys and get some additional tone out of them. That might not be a consideration for you. You might just want to like strictly input notes, but it is missing that. However, aftertouch definitely raises the price because the next competition for something with aftertouch is essentially the Arturia, like the Keystep, and the Keystep 37, which would be the competition for this 37 key keyboard, runs 200. The MPK Mini Plus, I believe, is 169 street. So you are cheaper, you know, not by a crazy amount, but it's definitely cheaper. And if you are pinching pennies, then that extra 30 bucks would definitely matter. At least it would to me. If I'm pinching pennies and I'm thinking about my total budget of what I can spend for gear, those 30 bucks definitely matter. That could be a sample pack, you know? Let's actually start comparing these. I really like the Keystep, by the way. So it's right here. Let me move this out of the way. Now this is just the regular Keystep. The Keystep 32, I think? It's 2.5 octaves is what it is. I think this is like 130 or something like that. Arturia tend to be a bit more money. Their build quality also tends to be a little bit better as well. Pitch wheel and modulation is just a touch type of thing. You might like that better. You might prefer actual wheels. I kind of like wheels personally because like the modulation I like to rock and set right there. So for me personally, I like that better. But like I said, these keys, I think these keys are slightly better. They do have like a full or a longer throw, I think, slightly longer throw. And they are a little bit taller, just slightly taller. But the big thing is they have aftertouch in them. And for me, aftertouch is a big deal. The 37 version has 4 CC knobs up here. So this has 8 CC knobs. This the 37 Keystep 37 has 4 CC knobs. Then you can switch banks in them to get additional values. Now I know for a fact that the Arturia version, you can actually set independent MIDI channels on those knobs. So they already have that figured out. Hopefully that's something that Akai adds to these in the future. But yeah, in terms of size, 37 version is going to be a little bit larger. Not much, just a little bit. Whereas this is taller, you know, by a little bit. They're both compact, obviously, so kind of splitting hairs at that point. But the Mini Plus is technically a more compact 37 key. Arturia has some great varieties. And if you want aftertouch, that's one of the best versions. If you look at Novation, they have the Launchkey Mini, which I did mention about the arpeggiator. The arpeggiator is absolutely superior. But like I said, the arpeggiator on the Mini Plus is definitely good and will like do most of your arpeggiating needs that you have out there. Oh, I forgot to mention also on the Arturia, it doesn't do the thing where when you plug it into the computer, it stops sending MIDI data. It will still send MIDI data when it's plugged in the computer. At least I'm 99% sure. So, Launchkey Mini from Novation. This is by far, hands down, one of the best integrations with Ableton. If you are a main Ableton user, I highly recommend checking this guy out because its integration is incredible. I mean, you plug it in and it automatically talks to Ableton, and you're able to launch clips. You're able to do drum programming. You're able to like control a ton with Ableton automatically on here. You can even use the capture MIDI feature where you hold shift, press capture MIDI. And they also added more in a firmware update. Really cool features on there. So don't sleep on the Launchkey Mini if you're thinking about picking up a controller. Obviously, it's only 25 keys, and if you need the 37, they have a 37, but it's full-size keys, so it's considerably bigger. Again, they don't have aftertouch, which, what? Why? Novation, why would you not put aftertouch in these products? Same thing with Akai. Akai, why would you not put aftertouch? I get it, it probably costs more money and you're trying to save money. Totally get it, that's why. Launchkey Mini, very, very solid option. It does have just this little MIDI out type of thing if you want to additionally control other pieces of gear. And it's also weird in its implementation. What I've found, or at least for me, I'm not able to send MIDI out from Ableton through this MIDI out port. This has the reverse issue of the MPK Mini Plus, in that whatever I'm playing will come out of the MIDI port, but I can't actually send something from Ableton directly out that MIDI port. So obviously this video isn't about the Launchkey Mini. but you should know it's a great option. It's also like 130 or something like that, 120, somewhere around there. It's affordable, that's what I'm trying to say. Obviously there's the MPK Mini Mark III, the 25 key version. Let's talk about more expensive options. The first of the expensive options is the Cobalt 5S. I think this will run you $450 or $500. I think it was on sale for $400 recently. I have put some serious time into this keyboard. I really like it. I think the sound engine is awesome. That's, you know, personal preference, but for me, I think what Modal Electronics is doing in terms of synthesis, software synthesis and all that is really killer. I like it a lot. The build quality on this is kind of hit or miss, honestly. It has like a metal bottom. So the metal bottom is really good, but like everything on the top here, I think is plastic. Pretty sure it's plastic. You would think also that the keys are awesome. I believe the Cobalt 8 and the Argon 8 are really good keys. I haven't tried them yet. I am planning on picking them up and trying them. The keys on here are not my favorite. I'm a little surprised, honestly. They're a bit stiff. Like they kind of have the stiffness of a regular full-size keyboard, which is not what I want in a mini keys. Like the mini keys need to have a little more like give to them, like a little faster throw. And like when I'm up here, like it's hard to press the key up here. Like that's not the case up here. I can easily press it up here, but the black keys up here, it's like, it's almost impossible to push it down reliably. You kind of have to just get lucky. So same thing with the key up here, the white, like easy to push right here, difficult to push right here. Modal, I don't know what you were thinking on that. Unless mine is a lemon, that's possible. I just got like the stiff keyboard out of the batch. If that is the case, well, that sucks for me, but whatever. It's got aftertouch, but it's also a bit stiff. It's one of these aftertouches where it's like, aftertouch. I don't know if you've played an aftertouch keyboard and you've had that experience where you're like, I really have to shove my hand into it to get it to really activate. That kind of is the experience I have with this. You can get into the settings and adjust it a bit, so it's a little bit more forgiving. And I believe there's velocity curves in here as well that you can adjust for the keyboard, which is not my problem. I don't have a problem with the velocity on here. I have a problem with the throw of the keys feeling like a full size. Like my Summit behind me, the Novation Summit, which I love that keyboard, that has less resistance in the keys than this. So that goes to show you. A little strange. The other thing too is it has this XY pad right here, which on paper you would think would be really cool because you can press into it for a Z value. You know, you have X, Y, and you push in to get a Z value. It's not very, it doesn't feel very good. Half the time when I just gently touch it, it like doesn't register. I kind of have to put a little force into it to get it to register. And the corners don't seem to activate the XY. And then when I push in, it like, sometimes it activates, sometimes it doesn't. So like, I love this keyboard. I love the sounds that come out of it. The sound engine specifically, I think is really cool, but the actual device itself, I kind of feel a little shortchanged on in terms of what they did. Like it feels like it should have been less money, if that makes sense. But like the sound engine is awesome, you know? So I have a full review coming up pretty soon because I've done a lot of work with this so far. So anyways, you should be aware of that. It is an option out there for aftertouch. And finally, in terms of the Mini Key Tour, that also has incredible aftertouch, is the Hydrasynth Explorer. Now, if the Mini Plus was already tight for your budget, this completely blows out the budget because it's $600. So we just went from something that's like $450, $500 to now $600. So clearly these options are extravagant if your budget was $200 or less. But the previous option has an awesome synth engine, and this option has a killer synth engine in it. I mean, this is like an absolute banger of a synth engine. So if you want amazing keys with poly aftertouch, no less, and a synth engine that will basically, it's honestly a classic. It's a modern day classic for a synth engine. Then this is just amazing. You can also load batteries into it. I have batteries in it right now, actually. Let me turn it on. Look at that. Nothing's plugged in. And it's loading up. It's a portable, badass synth. It does have this touch thing right here, which, you know, again, I'd prefer wheels instead. But is what it is. The poly aftertouch is crispy on this. It feels great. The keys feel great. Oh, see, I can actually push up here and get an activation and not feel like I'm having a problem. They just feel like they were specifically designed to be as musically expressive as possible. So for 600 bucks, you know, it's expensive in comparison to the other options, but you get an amazing synth engine that can grow with you, and you get an incredible mini keybed. And it's also not that much bigger. I mean, look at this. Yeah, not that big. I mean, it's not gonna fit in a backpack, but I guess if you had a really big backpack, but I don't have any backpacks that will fit this. I can fit the MPK Mini Plus in the backpack, but not this guy. This is like one of the best options out there. I don't think there is a better mini keybed out there. Like if you are a mini keyboard enthusiast, pretty much this is the best out there. I apologize if this completely threw off your ideas of what you wanted to get. But I think you should be aware of it. Know that it exists, all right? All right, in conclusion, in summary, the Akai MPK Mini Plus. We've gone down quite the road, talked about the pros and cons, talked about options out there. I think for $169, and if you are not looking for aftertouch, this is a fantastic option. I'm really happy that Akai added the additional outputs on here. I think that those were definitely missing from the MPK Mini Mark III and the Play as well. So now that those exist, it's great. If you do want to use it more of a standalone type of solution, you do need to plug it into a battery pack and not a computer. Otherwise the MIDI source will get hijacked and you can't use it anymore. The arpeggiator with the combination of the step editor or step sequencer and live sequencer, I think is actually really powerful. I think Akai did a great job in their implementation on there, and it's very functional, like directly on the surface right here. I also really appreciate that you can edit the majority of these controls, like the CC information and all that, directly on here, because if I had to load up a computer program every time I wanted to change some of these controls, that would be annoying. In fact, this guy right here, the LPD8 Mark II, if I want to change any of these controls on here, I have to load up a computer program to do that. Incidentally, these knobs, they go to different MIDI channels. So, Mini Plus, I think it is a great value. It is definitely the cheaper option out there for 37 key MIDI controller type of features. It's a fierce competition out there though. So I am fully aware of that. Like I said, the alternatives I talked about are all very capable. And again, the aftertouch thing, that can be a real deal breaker. Again, the integration with the actual MPC software, I would prefer to see more automatic and tight. I feel like you have to jump through a few more hoops than you should have to, especially being an Akai product. Because again, when you look at the MPC-1 connected to the computer, it automatically recognizes MPC-1, MPC software works. You know, you don't have to do anything else to make those Q links work. At least I didn't have to. So if you enjoyed this video and you want to support the channel, purchasing through our links, our affiliate links, definitely helps support the channel. So that is one way of doing it. Obviously a like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff goes a long way. If you are interested in any of the products I talked about, there will be links below. There's no additional charge for you if you use our affiliate links. It just directly supports our channel, that's all. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed reviewing the MPK Mini Plus. I think it's a great controller. It's not perfect by any means, but it definitely has room for growth as well. And I'm looking forward to see what Akai does in the future. Maybe even like a aftertouch version for a Mark II, you know, that'd be nice, right? And again, thank you Akai for sending a early version over to review. I do appreciate that. And yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time for another video. Deuces.